Hey everybody, how's it going? This is John Breeden. It is February 28th, 2020. It is Friday on the show, which means the race weekend is coming up. Auto Club Speedway this weekend from California, Fontana, California, that is. The Auto Club 400 is this Sunday, the third race of the NASCAR Cup Series 2020 season. And Xfinity action is also on tap this weekend, this Saturday. And so I'm going to preview those two races, but first I want to get into some of the news, including an update on Ryan Newman. So Ryan Newman, I forget exactly what day, but I think it was either Sunday or Monday that Ryan Newman posted a photo of him out fishing. And he basically said, well-needed therapy. So it was really nice to see that. It looks like Ryan Newman is doing very well after his horrific crash at the end of the Daytona 500. And then on Tuesday or Wednesday, he visited Roush Fenway Racing. And so that was definitely nice to see as well. And it looks like at some point we are going to see Ryan Newman back in a race car. He did say he wanted to get back in the car. And still no specifics on what his injuries are. We do know that he did say he suffered a head injury, but no broken bones or internal injuries. But he does have a head injury. And so he would have to, as I mentioned on the last show, he would have to pass an impact test in order to get back in the car. But it looks like right now, the most important thing is Ryan Newman is doing very well, and he looks to be back in a car at some point, maybe even this year for all I know. And so Ross Chastain will continue to fill his ride until he is ready. And still no update on any investigation as far as the wreck goes. Of course, the Ryan Newman and the Corey LaJoie car were taken to the R&D center. And so still no word on exactly what they've discovered with the two race cars, but I'm sure that will come out in the near future. So some other news, and I believe this was announced yesterday that Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson, they're going to be going after that Kyle Busch Truck Series bounty that Kevin Harvick put up on the line. And Chase Elliott will be running the Truck Series race at Atlanta in 2 weeks. He will be driving for GMS Racing. And then Kyle Larson will be running the Homestead Truck Series race, which is the following week. No, it is not the last race of the year, everybody. It is, in fact, the fifth race of the Cup schedule. And I guess that would be the fourth race of the Truck Series campaign. So there you go. And sorry, that's actually would be the sixth Cup race because we have Phoenix in between California and Atlanta. But anyway, so yeah, it's Kyle Busch has got some competitors, absolutely, these next couple of weeks. And as far as my predictions on that, I think. Here's the thing, I don't want to say they can beat Kyle yet because, I mean, who knows, but I definitely will say Kyle Larson going to Homestead versus Chase Elliott at Atlanta. I know Atlanta is Chase Elliott's home track, but Kyle Larson is very good at Homestead Miami Speedway. He loves getting up on that outside. He runs the wall like nobody else, and, you know, he gets it done there. So as far as who has the better chance here to beat Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott or Kyle Larson, I'm going to go with Kyle Larson because Kyle Larson is going to what he said is one of his favorite racetracks, and no question he's very good there. So I would say between those two guys, I would say Kyle Larson has the best chance. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to beat Kyle. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. But I would think Kyle Larson has probably right now out of anybody the best chance. I mean, if Denny Hamlin gets in a truck for Richmond that he has been teasing to go against Kyle, That could be the one right there, because Denny Hamlin at Richmond, you can't really go wrong there, and so could be the one. But right now, I'm thinking Kyle Larson right now has the best chance to win that 100K and beat Kyle Busch in the trucks. So I've got Xfinity racing to talk about. This is the third race of the 2020 Xfinity Series season, and Chase Briscoe is coming off his first win of the year at Las Vegas. And I mentioned last week, before Las Vegas, I thought the top three guys in the Xfinity Series would be Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, and Justin Allgaier. And if you watched that race last week, it would have been Sunday night because it got rained out on Saturday. But if you watched that race Sunday night, who were the three guys that were up there leading the race for the majority of that race? It was Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, and Justin Allgaier. So, it doesn't necessarily mean those three guys are going to be strong for the entire season, but I believe they will be. And so, Chase Briscoe coming off a big win. I saw a lot of improvement from him last year, and he's looking like he's going to have a really good year. But this weekend at California, I'm going to go with more experience over the younger guys, and I think Justin Allgaier is going to win this weekend in California. I just think Justin, he's going to have a really good season, and he is going to get it kicked off with a big win in California. So I'm picking Justin Allgaier. I guess he is from California, so this would be kind of a hometown win for Justin Allgaier. So, yeah, that's who I'm going with. I think Justin Allgaier is going to win the Xfinity race. I think Chase Briscoe is probably going to be right up there in the mix, top 5 most likely. I think Austin Cindric will be up there as well, and probably Noah Gragson too. Noah Gragson, as far as who's probably going to be fourth best this year, I would say it would probably be, it's going to be a close call between Noah Gragson and Ross Chastain, between who's the fourth best guy this year. But yeah, that's who I'm going with. I think Justin Allgaier is going to win California and get his first win of the 2020 season. That race is going to be on Saturday. And so for Sunday, the Auto Club 400, lots of stories going into this weekend. Obviously, the bizarre finish to the end of the Pennzoil 400 last week at Las Vegas. Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, a bunch of those other guys, they came in for tires, or just came into the pits there late in the going and got behind, and Joey Logano and I think like 10 other cars stayed out, and Logano had that big barrier, and it ended up winning the race. And what are you going to do? And I think I did say this last week, but the reality is with that is, I know I'm backtracking here, but I did want to bring this up again. The reality is everybody is calling that a bad call to come into the pits there late in the going. And, they'd be right. It was a bad call. But the reality is had, say, only 4 cars stayed out and everybody else had come in for tires and fuel, you would be saying, well, Joey Logano's staying out. That was a really stupid idea. That was a really bad call. Because, most likely, we don't know. This is just a hypothetical, but most likely, Ryan Blaney or Alex Bowman or whoever on those fresher tires would have won the race. And, that's just the reality. You kind of, you gamble, and sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. And for Joey Logano, staying out paid off. And for Ryan Blaney and those guys coming in, did not pay off. And more often than not, when you do come in and get tires late in the going on a late restart, more often than not, it does pay off. And this is just one of those cases where it didn't. And so I think I mentioned last week, the Hendrick cars, I thought the Hendrick cars obviously looked very strong last week. I mean, you had all four of them in the top 9 there at the end of stage 2. I mean, they were looking really good. Chase Elliott looked like he was going to win the race and, had some tire issues and didn't end up winning the race. But I expect them to be good this weekend. And, the reality is it's the second race of the year, and they looked really strong, so they really shouldn't hold their heads down about their finishes last week because they had a lot of speed. And so that's really all that matters. So Jimmy Johnson came away with a top 5. William Byron, Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, those guys, not so much, but they had a lot of speed. So, they can't be too down on themselves, but I would expect them to come back this weekend to California. California has been very familiar to the Hendrick guys. Obviously, Jimmy Johnson's won there multiple times. Jeff Gordon's won there multiple times. So, for those guys, for the Hendrick guys, they're very familiar with this racetrack. So, I expect them to do well this weekend. I expect the Penske guys to do well as well. Matt DiBenedetto coming off, his tying his career best finish. We'll see how he does. And I think the big question mark this weekend is the Toyotas. How are the Toyotas going to do? Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin did not do good last week. Eric Jones did not do good last week either. And Martin Truex Jr. had a bad day, but, in the beginning of that race, he showed a lot of speed. And so that leads me to believe that, if you're a fan of the Toyotas or, if you're a hater of the Toyotas and you want to see them all fail, however you felt about last week, I don't think it's going to be a factor this week because, Martin Truex Jr., had Martin Truex Jr. not shown the speed he did last week in Vegas, I would think, that was strange that, none of the Toyotas looked good last week. And the reality is, they had a lot of problems with, I think they failed all sorts of inspections, I think they failed, so they had time knocked off for practice, I guess because they failed inspection the week before, and then they ended up having to go to the back. I guess they failed pre-race inspection, and, it was just a mess. And so, they were dealing with all that. And Denny Hamlin's also coming off the Daytona 500 win. So, he's kind of coming off that Daytona 500 hangover week, so to speak. So, I wouldn't really worry about those guys. And I think they'll be back up there in the mix this weekend. And if you look at the last 2 California races, last year's winner was Kyle Busch. And the year before that was Martin Truex Jr. So, you really can't say, I wouldn't get worried if I were the Toyota boys, but we'll see, I guess, this weekend. And as far as my pick this weekend, I'm going to go with Kyle Larson. And obviously, Kyle Larson is a former winner at California, but the reality is he loves those big racetracks. And he loves going to California. He loves going to Michigan. He's won there 3 times. And, he likes going to Pocono as well. And obviously Homestead, as mentioned before. He loves those big racetracks. So I'm going to go with Kyle Larson this weekend. I think Kyle Larson's going to get a big win. And, yeah, the Chip Ganassi cars looked good last week as well. They were both running in the top 10 at most points in the race. Larson and Kurt Busch, they looked really strong. It was a really good week for Chevys last week, so we'll see how those Chevys perform. And it is kind of crazy how good they did last week because, the reality is the past 2 seasons, ever since they switched to that Camaro, that really hasn't been the story. The story has been the Toyotas and the Fords. And last week, the story was the Chevys and the Fords. And I think that's going to continue into this weekend, but I do expect the the Toyotas to do much better than they did last week. But it is going to, in fact, be a Chevrolet going to victory lane because I am picking Kyle Larson. I think Kyle Larson is going to get his second win at the Auto Club Speedway and go from there. Well, everybody, that's the show. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at NASCAR Images, as well as at John Breeden9, Twitter at John_R_Breeden. Make sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel. And that is it. Talk to you guys later.